Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, Arun.
Yeah. So up to now I didn't hear any voice. That's the reason I was
Yeah,
called.
actually, I'm about to start at 11:10. I'm waiting for other students
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
join.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
This class, we have discussed about data structures. Okay. In the data structures, we have discussed about list, tuples, and dictionary. And in each topic, we have discussed how to access and how to modify data in the each data structure. And then we discussed about control structures. In control structures, we have discussed about if statements and how to use if statements by based on different situations like one condition, multiple conditions, okay, and nested if statements. Okay, so today let us continue our discussion with another control structure elements, which is a for loop. Okay, so for loop is iterate over a sequence. Okay, so in our discussion we have sequence of items which are list, tuple, dictionary, and set, and string holds the sequence of items, right? So for loops are used to iterate over sequence of items. Okay, and the syntax is for item in sequence. Okay, so what we do with that is the body of that for loop. Okay, so these for loops are used to access each item of the sequence. Okay, so I'll explain that in detail. So for loop, so sequences are sequence of elements. Okay, so these sequence of elements which are like lists, tuples, okay, strings, sets, and dictionary items. Okay, so all these are sequence of elements. Okay, so for loops are used to iterate over each item of this sequence. Okay, which means, for example, if I have list tag A, B, and C. Okay, so using for loop, I can access each item. So if I name this list as alphabets, Okay, so to access each item in this list, so syntax for creating for loop is for letter in alphabets. Okay, colon, and in the body you can print that alphabet, or you can do whatever the action you want. So here the syntax here is for in alphabets. Okay, so this alphabets is the variable name here, the list variable name. Okay, and the syntax is for letter. Okay, so here we have list of alphabets. So I'm giving here a temporary name called as letter. So for each letter, okay. So in simple terms, you can consider it as a English sentence. Okay, for letter in alphabets. Okay, same way you have names. Okay, for example, I have some list of couple of names. Okay, I have some couple of names which is named as names. Okay, so to access each name in this tuple, I can access as for name in names. Okay, and print each name. Okay, so here this name is a temporary name, and it's your choice. Okay, you can name it whatever you want. Okay, so this is a temporary name, so that we are giving a temporary name for each item in this sequence. Okay, so we are accessing each item. Okay, so it will run until all the items got finished in this tuple. Okay, so it will run this loop until so all the items in the given sequence got finished. Okay, so let's see examples on that. If you Okay, for example, I have passed out students list. Okay, so in this passed out students list, I have names like, okay, I have this list of names. Okay, so I want to print passed out students using for loop. For student in passed out students, okay, print student. Okay, so this for loop will run until all the objects got printed on the output. So if you check the output, okay, so you can see that uh, the first print statement got printed, and here you can see that all the names in our list got printed one by one. Okay, so for each loop it will access one name and it will print, and it will return to the next loop, and in the next loop it will access the second element and it will print that element. Okay, and in the third loop it will access the third element and it will print that, and in the fourth loop it will access the fourth element. In the same way, in the fifth loop it will access the fifth element. Okay, so total 5 times this loop will run and will print the each item by accessing one by one. Okay, so like this we can access sequence of items and print them. Okay, same way we can print from string as well. For example, vowels are A-E-I-O-U, right? So these are ovals. Okay. So to print each character in this string, I can simply print as for letter in ovals print letter. Okay, so this name is your choice. You can name it whatever you want, but it's preferred to use a meaningful name. For example, here the list name is passed out students, right? So this for loop will access each student one by one. So I have named it as student. Okay, so that the statement is meaningful, right? For student in passed out students, it's like an English sentence, right? So for that meaningful purpose, I have chosen the name student. Okay, so the thumb rule is, for example, your sequence name is in plural form, you can simply use that name in the singular form. Okay, so that it will be nice to read and use. Okay, so here the new output will be, so you can see that, so it accessed each character one by one and printed that character for each loop. Okay, so total it will run for 5 times, as the length of this string is 5. Okay, you can print the length of string by calling ovals. Okay, so length is 5, and the 5 times this loop got run and printed each character in this loop. Okay, so like this, for loops are used to execute to access sequence of elements, and you can do so. It's not just for printing uh, numbers. You can use for different purposes, like to get data of each person. You can use this data. For example, let's take one more example with dictionaries. Uses okay. So we have 3 student scores. Okay. So to access each student score, you can access like per student in score, or you can access using a similar score in score. So if you just print the score, you will get the key of each dictionary. So you will get just Rakesh, Mukesh, Vignesh. Okay. So now I am accessing scores, student name, score, okay, print math, math score. Okay, to get math score, I am accessing score, score. So which will be, so here we have seen that the score is just key names. Okay, so here key names are Rakesh, Mukesh, and Vignesh, right? So we are accessing this element by calling scores square bracket score. Okay, so if we access that, for example, scores square bracket Rakesh, so I will get his mark details. Okay, so I'm getting that. So in this, I'm further filtering as math. Okay, so that I will get the math score. The same way. Okay, so like this, I can access each student and I can print all the marks details. Okay, so now you see, so you can see that I have access to student name Rakesh, math score, science score, student name Mukesh, math score, science score, student name Vignesh, math score, science score, science score. Okay, so like this, you can do different things using for loops. Okay, by accessing sequence of elements. Okay, so next one is while block. Okay, so while block repeats a block of code as long as condition is true. Okay, just like for loop, it is also used to run a specific block of code multiple times. But here the previously for loop is used to access sequence of elements or to run for sequence of numbers and do conditions. But in while loop is based on a condition. Okay, so this while loop will run until that condition gets failed. Okay, and the syntax is while space and the condition you want to put and open the block. In the block, you will put the code that should be run for that while loop. Okay, so let us see that as well. Okay, so while loop. So while loop syntax is while space condition. Okay, and the block of code. Okay, so here we'll place a condition. Okay, so until that condition is true, so this block of code will uh, keep on executing for multiple times. Okay, until this condition fails. Okay, for example, so I am taking a variable as counter equal to 0. Okay, so I'm doing while loop while count is less than count is less than 5 to execute print that count. Okay, so to modify this count value, so for each iteration, I'm increasing this count by 1, count plus 1. Okay, so previous count value is 0. So for each iteration, I am increasing that count by 1 and reassigning that count value to the same variable. Okay, so in the first iteration, for example, when I start this execution, so in the first iteration, the value is 0. Okay, so here condition is checking the condition. After entering the while loop, I'm checking the first condition. First condition is 0 is less than 5. Okay, it's true. So I will print 0 as output and I will add 0 plus 1 and I will assign that to counter. Okay, so the new counter value is 1. Okay, so counter value is 1 and the second time the loop will repeat. So in this second iteration, it will check for this condition again. So in this second iteration, the condition is 1 less than 5. Okay, so 1 less than 5 is true. So it will print 1 as output. And in the second iteration, I will increase this count by 1. So previously the count value is 1 and I'm adding 1. Okay, so the new value of the count is got increased to 2. Okay, so in the third iteration, it will again return back to the checking condition. So in this condition, again we will check now the new count value is 2. Okay, 2 less than 5 is true. So it will print 2 as output, and in the third iteration, we are increasing this count value by again 1. So the previous value count plus 1, which is 3. So the new count value is 3. The third iteration, 3 less than 5 is true. 3, 3 plus 1, okay, 4, okay, 4 less than 5, 3, okay, 4 and 4 plus 1. Okay, so the new count value is 5. Okay, so now 5 less than 5. Okay, so this condition fails. Okay, all these conditions are true. So this condition fails because 5 is not less than 5. 5 is equal to 5, but not less than 5, right? So this while loop execution will stop at this point. Okay, so when this condition gets failed, then this execution will stop. Until then, it will repeat on loop. Okay, until this condition gets failed. Okay, so let's see an example. Okay, so count equal to 0 while count less than 10, print count. Okay, and I have to modify the count for each version so that it will at one point this condition will fail. Else, always this condition will be true, and this loop will run for infinite times, and it will affect your RAM. Okay, so it will get hanged out. Okay, your system will get hanged out if you keep this condition always true. Okay, at some point this condition should fail. Okay, so to do that, I am increasing the count value by 1 for each iteration. Okay, so for each iteration, I'm increasing the previous count value with 1. Okay, so initially the count value is 0. Okay, so when this count reaches 10, so then this condition will fail. Okay, so here I should print count value. Okay, so now if we run this, so it should print from 0 to 10, so 0 to 9. Okay, so if you see that it has printed up to 0 to 9. Once the count got reached to 10, so this condition will fail, right? So 10 less than 10 is not true. Okay, so then this condition will fail and it will stop executing this code. Okay, so for these cases, we use while loop for repeating the same block of code until a condition gets failed. Okay, so in real world, for example, you can. Okay, for example, I have students like, okay, I have 10 students with their roll numbers 1 to 10. Okay, so I want to access these students only between 2 to 2 to 6. Okay, so from roll number 2 to roll number 6, I want to access. So in that situation, while while index is okay. So while index is greater than or equal to 2 and less than or equal to 6, I should print student ID. Okay. So now I will able to access only students between 2 to 6. Okay. Okay. So here you can see that. Okay. So here we are working with index. To access 6. So like this we can filter out so to specific condition and print out. Okay. So for this type of situations we can use while loops. Okay. Okay. So next break statement. So break statement is used to exit a loop prematurely. For example, I am running a loop. In that loop, when specific condition meets, so I want to exit from that loop in the middle itself. Okay. So here you can see that here in this example, I'm trying to print from numbers from 0 to 9. Okay. So using range 10, I have generated numbers from 0 to 9, and I'm trying to print those numbers. Okay. But here I have put an condition that if I equal to 5, okay, when this I reaches 5, so I'm using break statement. Okay. So instead of printing entire 10 numbers, I'm exiting at number 5. Okay. So when I reaches 5, so the cursor will get removed from the for loop. Okay. So it will exit at the point where I reaches 5. Okay. By giving a break statement. Okay. Same way we have continue statement. Okay. So continue statement, what it does is skips the current iteration and continues with the next iteration. Okay. So in break statement, it will exit from the loop, but continue statement, what it does is it will skip the current uh, it will skip the current iteration. Okay, so instead of exiting from the entire loop, it will just so instead of in this condition we are trying to print from 0 to 9 numbers. Okay, so in this situation, so when I reaches 5, so instead of printing this print I, so instead of printing this, we'll move on to the next step, so which means it will print 0 to 4 and it will skip printing 5, and then it will continue printing from 6 to 9. Okay, so continue is used to skip based on the condition, and break is used to exit from the loop. Okay, so let us see examples on them. Okay, so let us see break and continue. Okay, first let us see break. Okay, so for I in range 10, okay, print I. Okay, so if you run this break continue dot py. Okay, so here you can see that output is 0 to 9 numbers. Okay, I have tried to print 0 to 9 numbers. Okay, so in this I want to break when I reaches 5. Okay, so when I reaches 5, I want to exit from this for loop so that further numbers will not be printed. Okay, so from 5 it will not print. Okay, to do that I want to check the condition. If I equal to, so if I equal to 5, use break statement. Okay, so when I reaches 5, so it will print from 0 to 4, then it will reaches 5, then it will reaches 5, so then it will satisfy this condition and it will execute break statement and it will exit from the for loop. Okay, so you can see that I am out of for loop. Okay, so after 4 it will directly jump from this loop and it will print this print statement. Okay, so if you check, so you can see that it has printed 0 to 4. So previously it has printed from 0 to 9, but when it I reaches 5, so it got break statement so that it will exit in the middle of the for loop. Okay, so instead of printing entire numbers, so when this condition satisfies, it exits from the loop and it will print the next statements. It will jump to the next statement. So the next statement is this print statement. So that's what we got the output. Okay, so in real world scenario, for example, break. Say for example, we have conditions like, okay, so we have these times in our alarm. Let's consider this as alarm. So in this alarm times, so for example, we consider for hour time print hour. Okay. So now if we execute this, so it will print all the times available in this alarm. Okay. So now I am setting an alarm that if hour equal to 6 a.m. print time to wake up la is, okay, and I'm choosing break statement. Okay, and here I'm printing the hour. Okay, so previously it had printed all the, for example, if you consider this as a time display clock. Okay, so previously it got printing all the times, but here I have set a timer to 6 a.m. that at 6 a.m. this timer should stop and it will print that alarm message. Okay, so you can see that the time got running from 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and at 6 a.m. So we got a message for us time to wake up, alarm is ringing, and it stopped printing from there. Okay, so like this we can set a timers using break statements. So same break statements can be used in while loop as well. Okay, so these break and continue statements can be used in both while loop and for loop. Okay, so now let us see continue. So continue is used to skip a condition. Okay, for example, for I in range 10, print I. Okay. So if I try to run this, you can see that I have printed numbers from 0 to 9. Okay, but here I want to skip printing 7. Okay, so I don't want to print 7. Okay, to do that, what I want to do is if I equal to 7, continue. Okay, what it does is, so when this condition reaches, so continue executes. So instead of printing the statement, it will skip to the next iteration. Okay, so it will move on to the next iteration by skipping this print statement. Whenever continue statements get executed, all the code below this continue statement will not execute. Okay, so when continue statement executes, whatever the code may be below this continue statement, that will be not executed, it will skip to the next iteration. Okay, so previously you can see that numbers from 0 to 9 got printed including 7, but now if you run the program, so here you can see that 7 got skipped. After 6, it has printed 8. Okay, directly 8 instead of printing 7. So it printed 8 because so here continue statement got executed matching this condition, so that this print statement will not get executed because it is below this continue statement. Okay, the same way, for example, I have users data like users um, okay, and I have some error data which is none data. Okay, so I have data like this. Okay, now I want to print these users one by one. For user in users print user. Okay, so for each iteration, access and name from the list and print that. Okay, so if we check that, so here you can see that we have printed all the names including none. Okay, so none in the sense options of data. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to skip this none names in the list. Okay, so for that I can simply use if user equal to none, continue. Okay, so here what I am doing is data cleaning. Okay, so I'm removing null data from the user data. Okay, so this is sample of data cleaning using continue statements. Now if you try to print, you can see that you are getting only names. Okay, instead of getting these nulls, so you have skipped all the nulls using continue statement. Okay, so whenever so user is equal to none, so that print statement will be skipped and your user data will be printed only names. Okay, so like this you can use break and continue statements in the required scenario. Okay, so these are break and continue statements. You can use these in both for loops and while loops. Okay, so this is the summary of control structures. So control structures are essential for directing the flow of your program. So if else statements allow for decision making, which we have seen yesterday. Loops enable repetitive execution of block of code blocks. Okay, so we are repetitively executing the same block of code multiple times based on the length of your sequence or based on a condition. Okay, so for loops runs based on the length of your sequence, while loops runs based on the condition. Okay, until that condition fails, it will keep on running. Okay, so that's these are the conditional statements and loops. Okay, our next topic is functions and modules in Python. Okay, function. So a function is a block of code that performs a specific task. Okay, so till now we are writing code simply one by one. Okay, in a flow we are writing the code, but there is a concept called as function, so which is used to separate your code into block of sections. Okay, the function helps in modularizing code, making it reusable and easier to manage. Okay, so there are three types of functions totally: built-in functions, user-defined functions, and anonymous functions. So built-in, we will see one by one. Okay, let us understand what are functions. Okay, functions are reusable block of code. Okay, so which means, so previously we are writing pages of code, right? So these are not organized or these are not used for reusability. Okay, so functions advantages are we can organize our code into different sections, and we can reuse our code. Okay, so for example, I have a bigger application scenario. Okay, for example, I'm making one social media application. Okay, if that social media application, if I write all the code one by one, so it will be difficult to manage. Okay, and it will be difficult to uh, reuse the same code again. Okay, for example, if I want to send a message, so each time I want to write that sending message code. Okay, so if I want to, for each message I want to write same code multiple times. So instead of that, so this bigger application can be organized into different sections. Like I can organize the login code. Okay, so this is login code, okay, which handles the authentication of your login. For example, if you are login into Facebook, so this should handle the login scenario. Okay, after entering your details, so it will handle the login details. So this code will handle login details. Okay, this function. Okay, and another function for logout. Okay, and another function for posting photos or any media into your social media. Okay, another function for writing comments. Okay, so here what I'm doing is dividing a bigger task into smaller chunks of code. Okay, so by doing this I can organize my code into different sections so that it will be easy to manage my code, and the same way I can use the same code multiple times. Okay, so for example, if I want to post a post, so for each post we cannot create the code each time, right? So it is advised to create code one time, and by sending dynamic data, you can reuse the same code multiple times whenever you want to post a photo in your Facebook. Okay, so the syntax for creating functions is def, which stands for definition. Okay, def space your function name, parenthesis, colon, and your function body. Okay, so this is how we define our functions. Okay, so let us see an examples on this. You will understand then how we can reuse these functions. Okay, for example, I want to greet. Okay, so this is the syntax for creating function. Okay, so in this I will hello user. Okay, so this is a greet message. Okay, so this is how I can create functions. Okay, now if I want to use this function, simply what I have to do is call this function greet. Okay, so this is how I define functions, and this is how I call the function. Okay, so now if I execute, so you can see that I got message as hello user. Okay, so if I want to print this hello user, I want to call this hello user 5 times. Okay, I can call like this. Okay, so like this, I can call multiple times so that the same code will get executed multiple times whenever I call it. Okay, so now if I run, you can see that the same code got executed 6 times. Okay, so in this example, I am just printing single print statement, but you can do anything in this function. As I said in the example, you can manage entire your login code in this function so that whenever you try to log in, for example, I will say in further details. Okay, this is how you create functions, and this is how you access functions. Okay, so in this way you can reuse the same code multiple times. Okay, so like this we can organize our data so that it will have a name, and it will be organized so that you can easily access the specific code in your entire pages. Okay, so let us see furthermore. So defining functions, just now we have seen use def keyword to define a function, and the syntax is def space function name, and we will see about parameters, and this will be the body of your function. Okay, so calling a function, you simply call that function using that function name and parentheses. Okay, and function parameters. Okay, function parameters are variables listed inside the parentheses in the function definition. For example, we have, see here you can see that uh, there is an add function. So this for this add function we are passing two parameters, which is a and b. Okay, and we are about to print that data of a and b, which means we want to do the addition of the data and print data. Okay, for this purpose we have to call the function, and also we have to pass the respective parameters data. Okay, so that this data will be passed to the function, and it will perform the addition operation on these numbers. Okay, so by this we can pass different types of numbers for the same code. Okay, so this will encourage dynamic programming. Okay, so let's see example on this function parameters. So this is a normal greet function. Now if I want to make this function dynamic, okay, so instead of greeting user, I want to greet with a specific name. For that I can use name. I can pass a name argument. Okay, and I can use that name here. Okay, whatever the name I am passing to this function, so that name will be added to this hello. Okay, so now if I call this greet function and pass particular name. Okay, so previously it printed just hello user, right? In output you can see that hello user. Now it will print whatever the name I'm passing to this function. Okay, because it is accepting an argument, so that we are passing an argument and it is reading that argument and setting in the print statement. Okay, so now if I execute this, it printed hello Ramesh. Okay, same way we can use the function for, okay, so we can greet multiple users by calling the same function and changing the function, changing the parameter name. Okay, so like this, you can reuse the same code multiple times by sending dynamic data. Okay, so previously we have seen example of static data, which means fixed data. So it printing hello user, hello user, hello user. Okay, this is dynamic data. In this dynamic data, we are passing dynamic names. Okay, so instead of fixed names, we are passing a dynamic names so that it is printing the passed data. Okay, so previously, as we said, for example, I will log in. Okay, for this I have to pass username, password. Okay, if username and password print login successful. Okay, else login failed. Username and usernames. Okay, so this is called as membership operator. Okay, which will check whether the particular passed username is in this list or not. Okay, so membership operators is in operator. For example, to check whether a character in this apple or not. So I will get true because character A is in apple. Okay, same way. So here I'm checking whether name Ram in this list or not. Okay, so I will get true because Ram is in this list. If I try to check Rama in this list, I get false because there is no Rama in this list. Okay, same way here I am trying to check the dynamic username pass it to this function is in this usernames list or not. Okay, and password is can be anything. Okay, so this is some scenario. So now a student, so say a user is trying to handle trying to log into your website by passing Raj and some password data. Okay, so this Raj will be assigned to this username variable argument, and this password will be assigned to this password argument. Okay, so this will be based on the index. Okay, directly. So first element will be assigned to the first element of this expected argument, and the second element will be assigned to the second element of argument. Okay, so here what should you remember is, so you should send all the required arguments. For example, it is expecting two arguments, right? You are supposed to send exactly two arguments. If you try to send one argument, just one argument, you'll get error because it is expecting two arguments. But okay, but you are sending only one argument. So if you try to run this, okay, you'll get an error that missing one required positional argument password. Okay, so that's why you should send exactly the arguments it is expecting. Okay, so I'm sending Raj as username and password as password. Okay, so now if I run this, so you can see that login is successful because this username is in username. So I am getting success rate successful. Okay, so if I try to change this into Raja, so which is not in this usernames list. Now if I try to log in, I get login failed. Okay, so like this, you can reuse the same code multiple times at multiple situations. Okay, okay, like this, you can divide your code. Okay, login code. Okay, you can handle registration. Okay, and you can separate like upload photo, then like comment, post. Okay, so like this, you can divide your section of code into different functions so that your code will be organized. Okay, so there are there are naming rules for this function names as well. The naming rules are just like the variable naming rules. You cannot start the names with numbers or special characters. If you want, you can start with only alphabets and underscores. Okay, you cannot start with numbers or any special characters. Okay, and you can use numbers in between. There is no issue. Okay, so these are the naming rules, just like variable name rules. Okay, so like this you can organize your code. Okay, and these are called as arguments, which are used to pass dynamic data to your functions. So if you feel any confused, you can ask. Okay, in history parameters. Okay, so next one is default arguments. Okay, so function can have a default parameter values. Okay, so if no argument is provided, the default value is used. Okay, so previously we have seen sending multiple arguments to our functions, right? So these multiple arguments can have default values. Okay, so default value in the sense we are already pre-assigning some value to this argument. Okay, in case we forgot or we don't want to, in case we want to use just hello, then you can use then you can send only just name. Okay, so name will be enough because there is some default value, so that will be used. Okay, but if you want to change this message to something else, then you can send with a different message. Okay, so here you can see the example. So this greet method is expecting a name and message, but this message value have some default value like hello. Okay, for example, if you want to say hello Rajesh, hello. Okay, so then you can simply send that Rajesh name as argument. Okay, it will accept. So previously, so we are supposed to send uh, the arguments, right? So here it is expecting two arguments, so that we are compulsorily should send the two arguments. But here there is a default value for this message for this argument, so that it is not compulsory to mention. Okay, so if you want to change this message to hello to some good morning good night, then only you can send that variable. Okay, else it is not compulsory. Okay, so these type of arguments are called default arguments. Okay, so which have some default value, so that it is not compulsory to send that value while calling this function. Okay, so let us see example. So previously we have this greet method, right? So in this greet method, for example, I take hello instead of a name and taking as guest. Okay, I'm giving default name as guest. Okay, so I'm printing name. Now, if I call this greet function, okay, so previously without default value, if I try to call this empty method, I'll get an error because it is expecting an argument, but I'm not sending any data for that argument. Okay, so now if I try to run, I get missing one positional argument error. Okay, so now I'm giving a default value. For example, if I don't pass any value to this function while calling, so it will print this guest name. Okay, hello guest user. Okay, so here you can see that I called simply greet method. So we didn't get any error. Instead I got an print output which is hello guest user. Okay, now I am passing greet Swati. Okay, so now if I check, so here I got hello Swati. So this is called as default argument. Okay, so if you don't pass any value, so the default value what we have given will be printed out. Okay, same way if you pass multiple arguments like message, for example, you want to pass the name and message. Message is hello. Okay, so here I'm printing message and name. So here the thumb rule is that all the default arguments should be at the end of the arguments. Okay, so you cannot place default arguments first, and you cannot place normal arguments at end. Okay, it will be an error. Okay, so as per syntax, the default argument should be at the end of your arguments. Okay, it may be two or three or whatever the count, but all the default arguments should be at the end position. Okay, so normal argument should be in the first position and then followed by default arguments. Okay, so if you see here, so this name will be printed out here and this message will be printed out here. So here this name is a compulsory argument and this message is a not compulsory argument. Okay, so now if I try to give, okay, so if I call greet Sony, I get, okay, hello Sony. Okay, so here message hello is used by default. Okay, now I want to change this message to good morning. Okay, so good morning. Okay, now so you can see that instead of this default hello, it got replaced with the good morning message. Okay, like this you can send your different types of, okay, so these are the default arguments in functions. Okay, so next one is arbitrary arguments. So arbitrary arguments are uh, used to pass dynamic number of arguments. Okay, so previously we are passing just two fixed number of arguments, right? So if there is a situation that number of arguments is not expected, okay, or there is no fixed number of arguments, then we can use arbitrary arguments. So these arbitrary arguments can be passed using star and that argument's name. So by default, Python uses star args, okay, and there is keyword arguments. So keyword arguments are just like key value pairs, like dictionaries. So we can send arguments using keyword arguments as well. So this will be sent as a dictionary of arguments to our functions. Okay, so we'll see examples on that as well. And there is return statement. Okay, so return statement is used to exit a function and return a value. Okay, so previously in all the examples we are just calling a function and printing the data, right? We are not returning any data. Okay, but there is a return statement. That return statement will be exit of your function. Okay, by default, if you don't given any return statement, it will return nothing. Okay, which is none. Okay, but if you use return statement and if you return anything, so that value will be returned to the position where you are calling your function, so that you can collect that return value into a variable. Okay, so here you can see an example that we have created a function as square, which is expecting an argument x. Here what we are doing is squaring that element, which is multiplying the same element with the same value. Okay, so here we are performing x into x. Okay, so and returning that value, so that instead of printing that value, we're just returning that value. Okay, so here that returned value will be collected into this result variable. Okay, so that we can further use that variable in our program. Okay, so instead of just printing, so in general scenario, it's not about always printing. Okay, so it's about reusing the calculated value, right? So to reuse that calculated value, we collect that returned value into a variable so that we can use that result in further program. Okay, so for this purpose we use return statements. Okay, so let us see about arbitrary arguments and return statements. Okay, so arbitrary arguments, like for example, I have some method which expects a comma b and prints a plus b. Okay, so instead of saying, let us call it as add. Okay. So now if I call add and send 5 comma 8, 5 comma 8. Okay, so now if I run this code, I get output as 13. Okay, which is 5 plus 8 is 13. Okay, same way I can call 6 comma 9. Okay, I get 15 for 6 comma 9. Okay, so like this I can perform additions for the fixed number of arguments. Okay, for example, now I want to use the same function to calculate sum for dynamic number of values. Okay, it may be 5, 6, 7 or whatever the numbers. It should add those all the numbers and print. Okay, for that purpose what we have to do is use star args. Okay, so this name is your choice. You can use any number, any name, but you have to place a star before that argument name. You can use star numbers, okay, or star nums or star args, which are called as arbitrary arguments. Arbitrary. Okay, so to calculate these arguments, so should be total equal to 0 for one in numbers, one args, total equal to total plus r. Okay, so మనం ఎన్నైతే ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్ సారీ వాట్ ఎవర్ ద ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్స్ వీఆర్ పాసింగ్ టు దిస్ ఫంక్షన్, సో వీఆర్ ఇటరేట్ ఇనిషియల్లీ ద టోటల్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ value result is 0. So I'm accessing all the arguments one by one and adding the arguments to this total. Okay, and finally printing the total. Okay, so now if I perform this 5 plus 8, okay, I got output as 13, correct. Now I am passing 3 arguments instead of 2 arguments. Okay, so now I got 23 for my second call statement, so which is 6 plus 8 is 14 and 14 plus 9 is 23. Okay, now I am passing multiple. Yes,
Sir,
anybody
is
got?
args a tuple?
Sorry,
Is args a tuple?
it's a list.
Okay.
Let me see. It will be sent as a list. Okay, triple. Yeah, you are right. It's a triple.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So like this, we can send dynamic number of data when we are uncertain about the number of expected arguments. Okay. So in these situations, we can use arbitrary arguments. Okay. Same way, there are arbitrary keyword arguments that can be used in different scenario. Like for example, I'm passing A and B, and here let us see for now what is A and what is B. Okay, so now I am calling this new add method and passing 4, 5. Okay. So as we discussed previously, so these data will be assigned in the order. Okay. So this 4 will be assigned to this first argument and this 5 will be assigned to this second argument, right? So now if we call this method, if we execute this, so A is 4, B is 5, right? These are in order, but we can send these arguments using names. Okay, so these are called as named arguments. For example, I'm sending a equal to 4, b equal to 5. Okay, so now we get the same result. Okay, so the difference between these positional arguments and named arguments is, in named arguments we know there is no need to follow the order. So previously positional arguments should be followed, or the order should be followed. Okay, but in this named arguments there is no need to follow order, which means I can send first b value b equal to 5 and next a equal to 4. Okay, so there is no need of following order. Okay, so still you can see that, so though we have sent 4 in the second position, but this 4 got assigned to this a. Here you can see that output a is still 4, and we have sent b as 5, so that though this is in different positions, this is in first position and this is second position, uh, but b is still 5. Okay, this is because we have assigned those arguments based on the name. Okay, previously we have assigned arguments based on the position. Okay, those are called as position assignment, and this is called as named assignment. Okay, so now we see about keyword arguments. So this is here, key based on the keyword we have sent the arguments, right? So now we see about keyword arbitrary arguments. So in this also, just like expecting dynamic range of numbers, here we expect dynamic range of. For this, we have to use double star, PWRs, KWRs, or whatever the name you want. Okay, so this will be dictionary. So previously, this arguments is a tuple. Okay, but this keywords is a dictionary. Okay, for name value in keywords items. Come, yeah, names equal to, we can pass as 55. So now if we call this method, spelling mistake. So here you can see that it is passed as a dictionary of arguments, so that so we are so in for loop we can access two arguments if there are unpacked elements. We have seen that in dictionary, if we call the items method, we get a list of tuples. In the tuples, what we have is key value pairs, right? So those key value pairs can be unpacked into two different variables, so that we can use those two different variables. I'll explain them, don't worry. So in Python, we can unpack, for example, there are name one, name,
So the arguments that are passed are converted to a dictionary, right?
yes, not about converting these, those are considered as dictionary. Those will be sent as a dictionary.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so here I have couple of names, Raja, Raj, and okay. So here what I am doing is unpacking these two names into these two variables. Okay. So this first name will be assigned to this name one, and the second name will be assigned to this name two. Okay. So if you check name one, I get this, and name two I get Sita. Okay. So this can be happened if the element numbers, the number of variable names and the number of elements in this tuple are equal. Okay. So then those two respective elements will be added to this position arguments. Same way here we are unpacking key value pairs of our dictionary. Okay, so here we are sending key value pairs, right? So each key value,
Sir,
your
can you
keys.
please print the dictionary before for loop?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Uh, Sir, can you please print the dictionary before the for loop?
Spread it. Okay, I will print it out. Okay, keyword args will print the dictionary, and keyword args dot items will print the list of tuples. Okay, so then we understand. So this is the dictionary. Okay. So here we have sent Ram 46, Raj 55, Rakesh 88. So this is printed out as a dictionary. Okay. So after that, I have converted into this keywords dot items. Okay. So which will return list of tuples. Okay. So each tuple will have key and its value. Okay. So using for loop, I am iterating so each item. So and each item getting unpacked to this getting spreaded to this name and value. Okay, so that RAM is getting assigned to this name, and this 46 is getting assigned to value. Okay, for example, if you consider this as age, name, age. Okay, so that age is getting assigned, this 46 getting assigned to age for each iteration. Okay, for each iteration you will get an tuple. Okay, so that tuple is getting spreaded to these two temporary variable names, so that these using these two temporary variable names we are able to access the key value pairs separately. Okay, so like this you can spread tuple or list of items into different arguments and access them separately. Okay, so you can spread them either you can spread those values either list or tuple. Okay, whatever you can spread. If you see AB equal to M2, okay, A will be 1, B will be 2. Okay, so for example, there is A comma B equal to, I have multiple. Okay, if you try to spread this, you will get an error because too many values to unpack. Okay, so here the number of variable names and the number of expected the number of available items are not matching. Okay, but if you want to get only first two or first item, there is a way which is a star b, a comma b comma star equal to 3 4. Okay, so like this, so if you use star, so all those will be assigned to that G. Okay, and the first elements you will be assigned to the required value. So like this, you can unpack a list into different arguments, a list or tuple. Okay, so that's what we have used in this situation, and we unpacked those into multiple names. Okay, so these are called as arbitrary keyword arguments. You can pass a number of. There is no fixed. Okay, so still it will work for any number of arguments. Okay, so these are called as keyword arbitrary arguments, and the previous one are called as just arbitrary arguments, which are passed as just parameters, and these are passed as keyword key value pairs. Okay, so next topic is modules. Okay, so till now we are writing our code in single page because this is small code. Okay, so but once we are developing a large application, so we can't write entire application code in single page, right? So it will be some 1,000 to 10,000 lines of code. Okay, so in that case it will be not easy to manage. Okay, though we are dividing our code into functions, still it is not easy to manage some 10,000 lines of code in a single page. Okay, so for that purpose, to rescue, there is a concept called as modules. Okay, so by using these modules, we can separate our code into different files so that we can organize our codes in different files in a manageable way. Okay, so a module is a file containing Python definitions and statements. Okay, and this module can help in organizing code into manageable sections. Okay, as we discussed, when the project grows, it will be hard to manage your code in single file, so that we divide that modules into different our entire code into different files. Because there are three types of modules: built-in modules, user-defined modules, and third-party modules. Okay, so built-in modules comes along with your Python. Okay, we have already using the built-in modules. Okay, and there are user-defined modules, which means we define on our own, and there are third-party modules. These third-party modules should be downloaded from the internet and use. Okay, so let's see take examples of these. So creating a module. Okay, to create a module, nothing but creating a Python file. Okay, so that you can create a Python file and add code into that Python file. Importing a module. So as we said, we are dividing our code into different modules, which means different Python files. To get Python code from one file to another file, we have to use this import keyword. Okay, import and that Python file name. Okay, so by this you can access code from one file to the other file. So like this, you can import and you can call the respective functions of that page into another page. Okay, importing specific attributes. So previously we have imported all the sections from that page. In the next section, we are specifically importing two sections. Okay, we'll see examples on this. Okay, so here you can see that we have already written code into multiple files, right? So this break, continue, for loop, function, while loop. Okay, same way, I can divide my project code into different files. Okay, I can divide my login mechanism, total login mechanism, like controlling login, logout, registration into one file. Okay, I can divide my code into another file, for example, posting, liking, commenting. Okay, all this section code into one file. Okay, and I can divide my settings. Okay, profile settings. Okay, editing profile. Okay, privacy policies. Okay, notification settings, all these into different files. Okay, like that I can divide my code into multiple files so that it will be further easy to manage. Okay, when my project grows into some thousands of lines. Okay, so same way, for example, let's create uh, module dot type. Okay, so in this I have map functions. Okay, like def add will be return a plus b. Okay, so this will return this a plus b sub return a minus b. Okay, def multi and return a minus a into b. Okay, so like this I have three functions in a Python file. Okay, so now I want to import this into another file. Okay, so I want to import these math modules into this file so that I can use them. Okay, to do that I have to use import math modules. Okay, so in this I'm printing this is a home page for math operations. Okay, so now I want to perform addition. To perform addition, result equal to math module dot add. Okay, so in this math module I have add function, right? I'm accessing that add function by calling, so by calling the file name dot add. Okay, in this I want to pass the required numbers. addition results are, so like this I can access my addition results. Uh, okay, spelling. So now if I run, so here you get this is a home page for math operations, and the addition result is 143. Okay, 55 plus 88 is 143. Same way I can access subtract method, okay, by accessing sub.
So can we access variable too?
Yeah, anything you can access, not just functions. You can access anything. Okay, so here you can print number as math module dot number. So you can say that I got number 123 and name calculation. Okay, and subtraction minus
Okay,
33.
sir.
So like this, you can access anything from one file to the another file using this import statement. Okay, by this we are accessing all the elements in that page by this import statement. But if you want to access only specific elements, you can use another syntax. So which is from math module import add and mul. Okay, so this what will do is it will just import add and multiplication methods, and it will not import remaining methods. Okay, so this will narrow the import. Okay, so by this we for example, if I have other functions, so by using this I can narrow the specific functions that required for this page. Okay, by importing instead of importing all the available contents of the page, by this I'm just importing required contents. Okay, so here what we can do is directly we can use that method add. Okay, you can use only what you have imported. You can't use remaining functions. Okay, you can't use sub because you are not imported that. If I try to use sub, I'll get an error that there is sub function is not defined. Okay, I get an error that sub is not defined. Okay, same way you can use only what you have imported using this from module name import the respective things.
So
Okay.
we can rename the math module, right?
Yes, you can rename as well, but you can rename as import math module as using as keyword. You can give an alias name as math or just so whatever the name you want. For that you can use math dot mul. But there is already an inbuilt math module. Okay. So like this you can rename using as keyword. Okay, this is for giving alias names for large module names. Okay, it is not easy to call the same large module name each time. So for that purpose, we can give an temporary name, which is math for this module. Okay, by using this as keyword. Uh, uh, okay, so still those parts. Okay, so this is called as alias name. Okay, and this is normal importing, and this is alias naming. And to import specific elements, we can use add some sub like this. Or if you want to unpack all the, if you want to import all the elements, you can import star. Okay, so this will import all the elements available in this page so that you can use by simply calling the names. Okay, these are the possibilities. These are the available possibilities from map, import, and sub, or you can import all the things so that you can access all of them with names. Okay. So these are the all the possibilities of importing Python code from one page to another page. Okay, so these each Python file can be called as a module. Okay, so module is nothing but a file containing Python code. Okay, so these are modules. These are user-defined modules, which means we are defining these modules. That's why these are called as user-defined modules. And there is scenario where there are inbuilt modules. Okay, so which are already which comes along with your Python installation. Okay, so this let us see inbuilt modules. So inbuilt modules are modules that comes along with your Python installation. For example, there is a random module. Simply we can import random and print random dot. So there are some different types of methods in this random module. There is choice, random, rand range, sample, random. Okay, so there are different methods available. Let us see rand int. So which will choose a random number from 1 to 10. Okay. So if we try to print this, so these are inbuilt modules, which means this comes along with your Python installation. You don't have to write any code for this. So those are ready to use. You simply have to import and use them. So if you see here, it has predicted a number between 1 to 10, which is 7. If I run again, so I'll get a different number 6, 10. Okay, 6, 4, 7, 4, 1, 4, 8. Okay, so for each call, I get a random number between 1 to 10. Okay, so like this, we can we can use different modules, like there is module named as math. Okay, so using math, we can calculate the different math operations like square root of 9. Okay, so square root of 9 is 3.0. So like this, there are different methods for each module. You can check the available methods of each module by printing dir, by calling a inbuilt method called dir and that module name. Okay, so you'll get all the available methods in that module. So if you see, these are all the available methods in that random module. You can use them based on your condition. So each have some specific purpose. So you can get that purpose as well. You can know the explanation of each module like random help dot random dot For example, here there is sample method, right? So to know about sample, okay, simply call that in the help method and run. So you'll get the description of that sample method here. So sample method of random. So random instance checks k unique random elements from a population sequence. Okay. For this sample, we have to pass a sequence and we have to send uh, what how many elements we pick, how many elements we should pick from the as a sample from that sequence. Okay, so you'll get the clear explanation. So like this, you can pick. So if you see that Python import uh, from random import sample, okay, and I have numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so sample numbers 3. Okay, and telling the sample method that pick a 3 sample numbers from that sequence of list. Okay, so it has picked 3 numbers, which is 5, 1, 2. Okay, so for each iteration, we'll pick some random 3 numbers. Okay, so like this, we can use like this. There are n number of inbuilt methods. We can use them by instead of writing everything by ourselves. Okay, so these are called as inbuilt modules. Okay, and finally, there are third-party modules. So third-party modules are modules that should be downloaded from the internet. Okay, so these will have some advanced features. So instead of writing our code entirely from by our own self, we can take help from the already available third-party models. Third-party modules are developed by users like you and me and developers. Okay, and they are managed in. There is a mechanism for managing this, which is called as Python managing system. Pick Python package management system. So, so built-in modules we have seen third-party modules. So it is managed by Python package index PYPI. You can search that website. You will get all the available packages. And to install these packages, we have to use a pip tool. Okay, so simply by placing on the command line, you have to install any module using pip command. Okay, pip space install space the required third-party module. You can install that into your computer. Okay, so you can check all the installed modules in your computer using pip freeze and show. So to check all the installed modules in your system, you can see. So these are all the third-party modules that are installed in my system. Okay, so to install a new third-party module, what you have to do is pip install and that module name. Okay, so there are n number of modules for each section. For example, if I want to use machine learning, so there is modules like PyTorch, okay, NumPy, okay, SciPy Live, okay. So like modules. Okay, for example, uh, if I want to get information from a website, okay, if I want to what do we call it? So there is a beautiful soup module. Using that module, you can extract website data using that module. For that purpose, we use that module. Okay, for like this, for developing websites, there is Django module, which means we are using Django framework, right? For that purpose, we have to install Django, which is a third-party module, which is used for developing websites. Same way, there are modules for specific purpose. If there is a requirement with that module, we can install that by using this command. which is pip install. For example, I'm installing emoji module. Okay, so this module got installed. If I install some requests, so like this, you can install different modules. Install Django, so it will install Django. It will install Pillar, which is used for installing, which is used for managing images. So these are some third-party. Okay, so like this, the required models will be installed into your system as per the requirement. Okay, for now, let's check a module. And so I have installed emoji module, right? So let's see what it does. So this emoji module, import emoji. Okay, you can use emojis in your text. Emoji dot emojis. Python is fun. Okay, so you can produce emojis by placing a name in this column and that emoji name and again column. Okay, what it does is it will produce a emoji in this place. Okay, Python is fun. Python third part. Okay, so here you can see that I got an emoji, snake emoji. Same way, I want to produce cat. So you can see I got a cat emoji. Computer. Okay, there may be some specific names. Only those names will get. Okay, like that, you can produce all the available emoji names. You can include those text in your Python text by importing some third-party module named as emoji. Okay, like this, you can use all the third-party modules based on your requirement. Okay, these are the three types of modules: inbuilt modules, user-defined modules, and third-party modules. Okay, to develop Django applications, we have to install third-party module named as Django. So using the Django, we develop Django applications. Okay, so that's it for today. So tomorrow we'll discuss about so not tomorrow, in our next class Monday. So tomorrow section will be about tasks. Okay, so in Monday section we will discuss about classes and objects. With that, our Python basics classes will be closed and we will enter into the Django application development. Okay, so using Django, we are able to make websites. Okay, so
Sir, hello.
yes,
Sir, is there any need to know about JavaScript?
actually there is no need for this course. There is,
Okay.
but if you want to get some basics of JavaScript, it's nice to get. If do you have idea about HTML, CSS?
Yes.
It's, okay, that will be fine for me. There
Okay.
is no.
Okay. Sir, is there any presentation tomorrow?
Tomorrow's class will be handled by another sir. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm not aware of his schedule.
Okay,
I'll
okay,
let
okay.
you know.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone. That's it for today.